Hey everybody, it is Mama 2 Life 1. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video and for coming to my channel or coming back to my channel if you've been here before. I'm not going to do my spiel where I talk about what I do and what I'm known for and blah, 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 blah. I don't have time for that. But I want to show you guys really quickly before I get into the subject of this video, which I know is why you clicked on it anyway. But I just want to show you something that one of my followers sent me, and it just made me so happy. Followers saw one of my videos I posted a year or so ago. It was this like really short TikTok short of it's like purple people and how purple people are very obnoxious with how much they love purple. So he sent me this. This cute little Funko Pop, and it's Prince. I absolutely love it. It's the only Funko Pop that I own. So it's like, oh my gosh, now I need to like look for some purple Funko Pops and have a little collection or something. But I just thought it was so cute. I just wanted to share this. I just wanted to. They didn't want me to say their names. So I just want to say thank you to the person who got me this Funko Pop. But this is the cutest thing, and I love Prince, so this made me very happy. So I just want to share that real quick. But outside of that, we are here to discuss Bridgerton Season 3, Episode 6. It's called Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Before I go into the review and recap, I'm going to remind you guys how I typically do this. I typically will write down what's happened to each character within that episode, and then I have a list of questions or things that I observed in the episode that I want to discuss with you. So before I get into all of that, make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and also comment below with any questions or any observances that you had watching this episode as well. So first, the episode opens up with people in the ton, and these are just all of the, I don't want to say townspeople, I guess technically the townspeople, who are buzzing behind Cressida Kalpa saying that she is Lady Whistledown. Remember last episode, she made this announcement at Colin and Penelope's engagement party. And so everyone is just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's her. She can't show her face ever again. If I was her mother, I would disown her, all this other stuff. And half the people seem to believe her, and half the people seem to be like, that don't make any sense. Like, I never would have thought it was her. That's kind of strange. So that's kind of where we are. This is the tone of the episode, right? Is Lady Whistledown being unmasked? And if people actually believe that it's really Cressida. So that's kind of, most things kind of stem from this revelation. So with the Mondrish family, if you remember, this is the black family. What is the man's name? I know the wife's name is Alice. Will is the husband. Will finally decides to sell his club. And the two of them have grown very close to Lady Danbury, who is great at helping people become acclimated to the ton, acclimated to society, kind of showing them the way to go. Because she's been in this game for a really long time. She knows how the rules work. And I love that she's kind of taken them under her wing and she's able to be that voice of not reason necessarily, but again, just kind of that voice of guidance, helping them learn how to play the game appropriately. So they decide to close the club, which is great. Close the door, please. They decide to close the club. And at first they're like, okay, now we close the club, no attention's going to be on us. Phew, we can just kind of sit back. She's like, no, now you have to put even more attention on yourself because you have to show that you are here to stay, that you are really firmly supplanted into this society. And what better way to do that than to throw a ball? Because of course, every episode is going to have a ball. This is what Bridgerton does. So they have this ball. And Alice is very excited planning it. The queen happens to show up. And there's a scene where Alice is directing the people who are working for her. They're directing her way to put different things. And she's directing them about the queen's chair. And that was one of the things that I put down. So obviously the queen isn't obligated to go to any of these balls. And obviously when she comes to your ball, it's a really big deal. Does she let people know ahead of time, or do people automatically set up a space for her just on the off chance that she's going to show up? I just thought, that was kind of interesting. They have the ball. It's great. The queen is like mildly impressed, like, not bad. Okay. First, she was like, this is really basic. But then after a while, she was like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. It's cool. And Will, like I said, is closing his club. And he has this last night at the club where he's getting drunk with John Kilmartin, Colin, and Benedict Bridgerton. And he has this look on his face as he's looking around the club. And I feel like there's different emotions on his face. He's looking kind of sad to let it go. I think he's also looking proud of what he was able to accomplish. And it's interesting, like we've kind of seen his character go through there's a couple different things. The first season, he's a boxer. Second season, he owns his own club, and now the third season, he's a member of royalty. And it's, I'm sure, very disconcerting for him. But to be honest, I still don't care about him and his family. They don't need to be in the episodes. I'm fine. Just kind of let them go. I'm fine with that. That's all that happened with them. I'll get to Colin and Penelope last. With the Featheringtons, the mother, she is very much into the throes of helping Penelope plan her wedding, and she seems to be excited. And she's trying to turn over a new leaf. There's been a lot of backbiting and name calling, and just kind of not I don't think they're being cruel, but just a lot of meanness with amongst all of the Featheringtons. And the mother hasn't done any better. She's, set a bad example, obviously, for the girls. So her two oldest, Prudence and Philippa, are very mean and nasty to each other and to Penelope generally. The mother's trying to be better because she understands, once Penelope says something to her and once Colin told her off, she's like, you know what? I do need to do better. These are my girls. I need to treat them a little nicer. So we can see that she's trying, right? And the sisters showing a lot of jealousy at her getting so excited about Penelope's wedding. They're feeling really left out. And I think also, they're pregnant, so they're hormonal, and they're just like not the nicest people. Lady Featherington goes to Penelope in her room, and Penelope at this point is really, first of all, she starts off still feeling sick. From the last episode, we saw that she passed out at her engagement party. In this episode, she's been in a room for days, like still not really feeling well. And so Lady Featherington goes to check on her, and Penelope's like, I'm still not feeling well. And she's sitting on a chair looking really contemplative. And obviously she's still reeling from the news of Cressida saying she's Lady Whistledown, even though Penelope is Lady Whistledown. So in this situation, she has options, but she doesn't really know what to do. She loves being Lady Whistledown. She's very proud of the work that she's accomplished, and she cannot stand Cressida, who's always been mean to her. So why should I let this woman take credit for my life's work? On the other hand, her admitting to be Lady Whistledown solves my problem of feeling like I have to tell Colin and possibly losing the man that I love. But she's still on the fence, doesn't really know what to do. And she and her mother have this heart-to-heart conversation, and her mother says this line that on the surface is very problematic, but it's only problematic because it's 2024. Back in this day, it was still problematic for Penelope, but it made perfect sense. She's telling Penelope, focus on making your husband happy, focus on helping him achieve his dreams. That's what you need to do. And Penelope tells her, what about my dreams? And Lady Featherington says, women do not have dreams, they have husbands. And hopefully, through helping him to achieve his dreams, you'll in turn achieve yours through him. And again, it's problematic, but in that day and time, that's really there weren't a lot of choices for women. If you chose to have dreams and you chose to be a working woman, you are no longer part of royalty. You are now a part of just the common people, which is, fine, that's the life you want, but there's no, I don't say there's no honor in that in working, because there is honor in working, I think. But obviously, in that time, it was a very clear line between those of the ton who are nobility and royalty, and then those who are the working class people. Those two sides never intermingle. So it was kind of a choice that you have to make, right? So I understand Lady Featherington giving her that advice. And one thing she tells her is, marrying for love is a very foreign concept to me. She's like, your father could be cruel and he could be weak. And at first I was thinking, like, how can a weak man be cruel? But I was like, it actually makes perfect sense. Most men who I would consider weak that I know of are also cruel, probably because they know how weak they are and they're too lazy to change it. So instead of putting that energy towards changing it, they put the energy towards the person who happens to be stronger than them, who most of the time happens to be their wife. It sucks. It's not a great excuse, but that typically is just how it works. But she's telling Penelope this, and she's like, I'm married for security, and your father couldn't even give me that. But he did give me the three of you, and all I ever want is for my daughters to do better and to have more than I did, which I think is one of the most honest things that Lady Featherington has ever said. I feel like every parent, we have that mindset, even now in 2024, that whatever we had growing up, and not just monetary things, not just, not that kind of stuff, but we want our children to have better memories. So when my children are grown and they're talking about their childhood to somebody else, I would love if their childhood was just full of gumdrops and rainbows. And let me tell you how my daddy did this and my mommy took us here and we did this and this and this and this. I would love for that to be their story, that I crafted this childhood for them that was wonderful, idyllic, maybe a few bumps and bruises, but overall they had a great childhood. That's all you want. And you want their life to turn out better than yours. Like, that's the whole point. Generation after generation is supposed to be better and do better than the one before it. That's how it's supposed to work. So I understood Lady Featherington. And again, I think this is the most honest and genuine she's been when talking to anybody. And yeah, and I liked that scene. I really like seeing that side of Lady Featherington. I feel like we don't get to see that side of her too often. And that made me happy to see. And I don't think anything else really happened. She's getting lost in wedding planning. Penelope's finally getting on board. Now, once she feels better, she's like helping her mom pick out, the napkins and this and that. And they're so excited. Like, oh my gosh. Lady Featherington, they go to, it's not a, I think they go to a ball. I think when they go to the Mondridge ball, Lady Featherington is talking about Penelope's dress. You know what? This color, but it really suits you. And she's kind of fawning over Penelope. And Prudence starts getting a little teary eyed. She chokes up when she sees it. Now, I don't know. She mentions the pregnancy. So she mentions, like, oh, well, when people are pregnant, their emotions come out through their eyes or whatever. And I do know that hormones can cause you to cry or to be angry. It can cause mood swings. I understand that. But I don't know if that was really it. It almost made it seem like she was saying it as an excuse, but really she was choked up and emotional seeing her mother and Penelope together. But again, I don't know if that's because she was jealous of the attention Penelope was getting, or if for her, just like with her mother, she's starting to see Penelope with fresh eyes. And now she's looking at her little sister like, oh my gosh, my little sister is beautiful and she's going to be a wonderful bride and blah, 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 blah. I'm not quite sure. I want to believe it's the latter, but with Prudence, you kind of never know. But I want to believe she was choked up because she's finally seeing Penelope as the woman that she is and not as, and trying to let go of those layers of, again, the Featherington way of kind of talking about each other and not even in a teasing way, just, not being supportive and all this stuff. I'm assuming that this is the first step in her kind of letting that stuff go and wanting to be a better person herself. So that's my assumption. In the Bridgerton house, Lord Anderson, if you remember, is Lady Danbury's fine looking brother. After he leaves the engagement party, he leaves his hat and he comes to retrieve it. Now, obviously, we all know a man who is interested in you will find any excuse to be around you. Now, even if he didn't necessarily know that Lady Featherington was there, matter of fact, I'm sure he asked when he first got there. We didn't see that scene, but I'm almost positive he asked. It was like, oh, was the lady of the house in? Oh, is she? Huh. I don't see her. But he came to pick up his hat that he left, and that he has a moment with I said Lady Featherington. He has a moment with Lady Bridgerton with Violet, and you can clearly tell that they are both becoming very smitten with each other. And Violet she seems open to him. She doesn't seems very nervous. She has not dated since her husband died, and her husband died when she was pregnant with her youngest. And I don't know how old Hyacinth is supposed to be. I feel like she's at least 14, 15 years old. So that's how long ago Violet's husband Edmund died. But you can tell that there's some sparks there. And she tells him, like, I know that you and your sister got some stuff going on. How's everything there? Are you working on that? I really think you should work on it. Maybe, you should figure that out. And he's like, yes. He's like, my sister and I, we do need to talk. We'll figure this out, blah, blah, blah. And one thing I thought that was funny, he was like, oh, how do you feel? She's like, oh, I have a slight headache, but I'm fine. And I loved it because if you watch Bridgerton from the very beginning, in season one, after one of the balls, Lady Bridgerton comes home clearly drunk. And the next morning, she has this terrible headache. And back then, I don't think they used the term hangover or hungover. So she had a really bad headache. And it was the day that Daphne told her, oh, Simon and I are getting married. By the way, we got engaged last night. So I thought it was a great throwback to season one because I'm sure she also got drunk at calling to Penelope's engagement party because Cressida announced to the world that, oh my gosh, I'm Lady Featherington. I mean, that I'm Lady Wilson. I'm getting these ladies mixed up. But I just like that that was a throwback that she's once again has a hangover. I thought that was fun. And then when he leaves the house, she's just, she's walking back up the stairs. She's constantly kind of looking back, this lingering looks in his direction. So you can't see it, but she's definitely like, oh, okay, all right. So she's definitely interested, which I love. Francesca and John announced their engagement, And Violet wants them to delay the official announcement for a while, only because, keep in mind, the queen originally had someone set aside for Francesca. Violet has not talked to the queen since Francesca has made her decision to go with somebody else. So she doesn't know how the queen feels. If the queen is upset with them, she doesn't know. And so she's trying to play it cool. John and Francesca basically ask Violet to talk to the queen on their behalf. And Violet is hesitant. I feel like Violet is not a very confrontational person, doesn't seem like it. Her hesitancy, though, comes because and Lady Danbury kind of called it out. She was like, I don't think you should talk to the queen because the queen will be able to detect that you still have some doubts about this match. She's happy for Francesca. She can clearly see the way that Francesca looks at John and how John looks at Francesca. So it's very clear that they are smitten with each other. They actually like each other. She can see that, and she's happy for that. However, her view of love, it is interesting that she is the exact opposite of Lady Featherington. Lady Featherington did not marry for love. At some point, maybe she kind of loved her husband, but she really just liked the lifestyle that they had and loved the fact that he gave her these three daughters. And that was kind of it. They barely talked. There was no respect there, none of that. Whereas Lady Bridgerton had the ultimate love match where her man made her heart flutter. She could barely speak. Like, that's what she wants for all of her kids. And we see that Kate has that, well, that Anthony has that with Kate, and that Daphne has that with Simon. So with Francesca, the engine that Colin has that with Penelope. So with Francesca being the fourth child to now get married, that's all Violet wants for her, and she's not seeing that with her and John. She's seeing a very quiet kind of love. She's not seeing that explosive fireworks, oh my gosh, I want you all the time kind of love. And so that's making her doubt that the match is not that the match is real, but it's making her doubt that the match is really what her daughter needs or wants. So they have kind of a blowout, but in a very Bridgerton, safe, quiet kind of way. When they're at the Mondrian ball, Francesca and John are trying to encourage Violet to talk to the queen because the queen is there. Like, should we not talk to her now? She's right there. I think this is the time. And that's when Francesca finds out, like, oh, you don't really believe in this match. And she's like, Mom, like, this isn't cool. I don't appreciate this. I, you know, I don't like this, basically. And there's also a scene where Lady Bridgerton is talking to Penelope. She's so happy to see her. She's hugging her, kind of fretting over her, like, oh my gosh, my dear, you're so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And Francesca is looking at her mom doing this to her future sister in law. And the look on her face is it's not disappointment, but I guess it's a look of longing. Like, I wish that I could be as out and about with my love and with, the person that I've chosen as everybody else is. But I also don't think it's kind of weird. It seems like a look of longing, but I think it's more of longing of I wish I could be out and about with our engagement as opposed to I wish I had that attention because Francesca doesn't seem like the child who wants that kind of attention on her. She seems to be more she seems to be trying to figure out who exactly she is. Outside of having the last name Bridgerton, who am I just as Francesca? I know a little playing piano, but I don't know anything else about me. I'm still young. I need to figure this out. So I don't think she necessarily wanted to be fawned over, but I definitely feel like I have to keep the secret, and it sucks I have to keep the secret because I love this man, right? So once they get into this little tiff at the ball, Francesca marches off in another direction, and Violet goes in the opposite direction, and she's clearly upset. And we see that Lord Anderson Marcus, sees her, and he starts going after her. Lady Danbury clocks it too and starts following him. Before all of that, Lady Danbury sees that her brother has been eyeing Violet. And, she and Violet are like this. That's her homegirl. So she's like, what you're not finna do is mess with my friendship with my good girlfriend. So she keeps sending widows Marcus's way, like just widows up a ton. But these are some of the gossip-iest, I'm sure that's a word, women in the whole ton. So of course he has no interest in any of these chicks. She's like, oh, dear brother, here is lady such and such and the widow such and such, and he does not care. He's like, please don't send no more women my way. I don't care about these chicks. Forget it. So then they have their own come to Jesus moment where we finally find out why Lady Danvers had an attitude with him all this time. And she reveals to him, well, first she says, I don't want you going after my friend because I don't want you taking something else from me. When she was little, and if you remember, if you saw Queen Charlotte, you saw the man that she ended up marrying, a man that she had no love for whatsoever. She was promised to this man when she was 3 years old. I don't know how old she was when she actually got married, but she was promised to him when she was three. He was a good 30 years older than her, maybe, like extremely just just a lot, right? He was, sexist and like I said, just an old man, just nasty, no attraction, none of that stuff. So the night before she was to get married, she had plans to run away, and her brother snitched on her and told their father, who apparently was not the greatest man and had an attitude and was just kind of mean spirited, right? Wasn't the kind of father that, no one really wants. So she's basically telling Marcus, like, I know, I heard Father congratulate you. I heard Father thank you. So I know that you told Dad that I was going to run away. You robbed me of my freedom and took that from me. And I'll never forgive you for it. And then he calls her Soma, which I guess is her, like, given name. And she said that, she's like, how dare you use my birth name? And I will say, you have to, if you haven't watched this episode, when they had that part of the conversation where he calls her by her given name, her birth name, because remember for Queen Charlotte, she was born in Africa. I don't remember which country, but she was born in Africa. So she had a name there, but coming here, her name is Agatha, something very European, very white, very safe. And when he calls her by that name, when she responds, like, don't say my birth name, you can hear her accent change. It's very, very slight, but it's almost like the crack in the armor that is Lady Danbury, this persona that she has created for herself since her husband passed away, even before her husband passed away, since becoming a lady, since actually becoming Lady Agatha Danbury, this armor that she has of being just smooth and always put together and knows how to calm people down, got the queen's ear, like that chick, it cracked just a tiny bit. Because again, her accent changed when she responded to him. And I thought that was so amazing. And I'm sure that was probably a choice from the actress, and it was a phenomenal choice because it's so slight that you almost miss it. But since I've watched these episodes twice now, I was like, oh, that is good. That is phenomenal. So that's what happens with them. And other stuff with the Bridgertons, I mean, Benedict is, to quote a term that my husband uses quite often, Benedict the slut bucket. He's still sleeping with Tilly. They're having a good time, sleeping together all the time. And then she invites him to a dinner party with her friend Paul. And he catches them in flagrante. I think that's the name, the word. And just kind of kissing and all this stuff. And Paul's like, oh, you trying to join us? And then he's like, I left my stove on. I got to be up out of here. And so he rolls out. And it's like he's definitely in a space where he's lost and doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what his next move is. I don't have direction, blah, 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 blah. After the announcement of John and Francesca announcing their engagement, there's a scene, and I've said this earlier, where John and Benedict and Colin are getting drunk at Modridge's bar the last night that the bar is open. And that's when Colin reveals to Benedict, like, oh man, I'm just so silly with love that I can barely write a sentence. And he's like, why are you writing sentences? He's like, oh, I'm writing a manuscript. He's like, oh. He's like, that's so great. I don't have any direction. I don't know what I want to do. At least you have some idea of what you want to do. So Benedict is like lost, but not really trying to find himself. It's just like, well, I'm just going to lose myself in, I about to say, a very raunchy word. I'm just going to lose myself in this person, in Tilly, and get up in her guts and have me a good time. So that's pretty much all that happened with the Bridgertons. Eloise, it wasn't a lot that happened. Well, actually, I'll get to Eloise in a minute because I can mention her when I talk about good old Cressida. So we know that Cressida has admitted to everyone, or admitted at the Bridgerton house during Colin Penelope's engagement party, that she is Lady Whistledown. So upon hearing this, and of course the ton gossip goes around super, super fast. Everybody in the town knows now. Her father berates her and tells her that because of this, the man that said he would marry you is not going to marry you anymore. And if you remember, the man in question who was going to marry her was a good 60, 70 years old, but still wanted some kids from her, like 4 or 5. So she's like, oh my gosh, he doesn't? So great. And he's like, no, it's not great. He threatens to send her to live with her Aunt Joanne, who lives in, I forgot where she lives, but I guess wherever she lives is like the countryside, and it's just not really a lot there. And he's like, basically, you're not going to keep being here embarrassing the family. That's what we're not going to do. So, and her mother confronts her when the dad leaves. She's like, I know you're not Lady Whistledown. She was like, you have a lot of talents. Being clever is not one of them. Her mother is not dumb. She's like, I know my child. Lady Whistledown is entertaining as a writer. She's great. You all right, but I know you don't write like that. So I know you're lying. But since she outed herself, who comes calling at the door? It's the Queen's men. Because the Queen, of course, has a reward for whoever reveals Lady Whistledown. She's like, oh my gosh, the Queen's men to come. Okay, let me go. She and her mom go to the castle, meet the queen, and the queen basically sees right through her. She's like, look, just based off of the conversation, based on a couple questions she asked, she's like, Lady Whistledown is extremely observant. You haven't observed anything but yourself. I don't believe that you're Lady Whistledown until I see your next column and you can prove to me that you're her. You will get nothing from me, and I don't want to see you in my chambers again. Beat it. So after that, her mom's like, look, don't do the column. And she's like, I have to because if I write a great column, the queen will grant me favor and I can take those 5,000 pounds and I can go make a life for myself. I know nobody's going to want to marry me. They don't want to marry me now. So let me just do this. I need to have some kind of plan. So this is what she plans to do. So her mom, well, later on, actually, the father gets kicked out of his country club because of Cressida claiming to be Lady Whistledown. So now he's like, okay, well, I'm taking away her dowry, and we ain't doing this. So the mother's like, you know what? Yes, you need to write Lady Whistledown. She sees that Cressida is struggling to write, so the mother steps in and writes the column for her. Well, actually, before she writes the column, she writes like an introductory paragraph like, hello, gentle readers. I've taken a little hiatus, but trust in mind, I've been keeping my eye on all of you. Something like that. Just something to kind of tease the palace. People can get excited, like, oh my gosh, what is she going to write about? This is great. So this little paragraph is brought to the Montage Ball and passed out because, of course, everyone who's anybody is at this ball. So that's when they pass out the introductory paragraph, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Lady Whistledown, she's back!" But the scene before the piece of paper passed out, when Cressida and her mama walk through the door, the mother walks through first. Cressida comes in all in red with her very traditional huge shoulders, and the song that's playing is I think it's Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato's "Confident," and one of the new people of the ton is her daughter, I guess, is hard of hearing, and so she signs devil to her, like basically stay away from the chick, she's the devil, which I thought was great because she is wearing all red. But it was just a great entrance and the perfect song for that. So of course when that happens, the queen is like, okay, I'm intrigued. I can't wait for your column. This is gonna be great. So that's what happens with her. But of course, a whole column is different from a paragraph. So Cressida goes to find Eloise to ask for her help. Like, we can work together, we can do this. And she's like, absolutely not. I'm not going to help you. Do you remember everything Lady Whistledown wrote about me? Now, obviously, Eloise knows who the real Lady Whistledown is. So she's already just annoyed with Cressida for lying and keeping up this ruse, knowing that Penelope is the one who really did the work. And Cressida says something to Eloise that kind of strikes a nerve. She's like, no wonder Penelope isn't your friend anymore because all you do is talk. And that's the exact same thing that Penelope said to Eloise at the end of season 2 when they had their big blow up. So I think that's definitely ringing in Penelope's ear that, wow, I do a lot of talking. I don't have any action behind it. If my former best friend and my now former friend are saying that to me, like, it obviously has to be true. So we're gonna see what happens. Cressida, told her mom, like, Mom, I'm scared. And the mother's basically like, look, I got you. Keep your head held high. We're gonna get through this together. And that's what happens with them. I believe that's it for them. So we're gonna go to Colin and Penelope now. Colin, so okay, I'll say this. There's a scene where they're clearly in church. And I guess what happens is, and I don't, it seemed kind of weird to me. They're in church. The church is completely full, by the way. And the person who is, I don't know if he's a preacher, whatever his title is, he announces the engagement of Penelope and Colin and then gives anybody there permission to stand up if they object, which I've only seen at an actual wedding. I've never seen that prior to a wedding because after no one objects, like, okay, so the wedding will take place here in 3 weeks. So, like, how is this the thing? I just thought that was kind of strange. And also, this is the first time we've seen them in church and it hasn't been a wedding. Because Daphne and Simon got married in church and Kate, well, not Kate. Anthony almost got married to Kate's sister in a church, but we've never seen them actually attend church. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I thought that religion was kind of big during this time in England. I know it's like big now. So I thought it was interesting that we hadn't really seen that before. So in addition to that, they announced the engagement of this other young lady and her beau. I thought that was weird. This particular young lady, she had lines this episode. What I do love is that she is a plus size black woman. I appreciate that greatly. But why does she have lines? Why are we announcing her engagement in the church? Why are we supposed to care about this person? Is she going to be important later on? She's not. Spoiler alert. She's not important later on. So I thought that was weird that they kind of showed that. I didn't quite understand that. But during this whole exchange, not all the people, a lot of people kind of giving each other the eye, calling and Penelope, looking at each other like, oh my God, so we're getting married in 3 weeks. This is so great. Lady Bridgerton and Lord Anderson are kind of looking at each other, and Lady Featherington waves at Lady Bridgerton like, "Oh my gosh, we're about to be family. It's gonna be great." There's a lot of just like sneak looks with each other. Then everybody leaves the church, and Colin and Penelope talk. And at this point, Penelope still has not told him that she is Lady Whistledown. He knows that she's been meaning to tell him something. And she's like, you know what I have? I've loved you since the moment I met you. Even when we were friends, we were definitely friends, but I still loved you then. And I cannot wait to marry you. I'm so happy. And he's like, I love you too. And I just can't wait. And I'll spend the rest of my life making up for the fact that I ignored you for so long. And she's like, no, we don't have to do that. Let's not worry about the past. We're together. Very dramatic BS, right? And then they dance. And she's like, I'm going to call someone will see us. So I guess what I'm gathering is it's not done to A, dance in a church, and B, to dance when it's daylight. I thought that was really interesting. Dancing apparently is only at balls at night. Very strict rules in the ton, you guys. We have to keep remembering all the rules. So I was like, okay, I guess. So before they have that moment, the first time we see Penelope, she is in bed furiously writing. Because again, this is the day after Cressida has claimed to be Lady Whistledown. Penelope is writing a column basically to discredit Cressida. Like, no, she compares Cressida to the devil in her first draft. And you see that Penelope is profusely sweating. And the only reason I even noticed that because I've never seen anybody else sweat on the show for the most part. People don't be sweating like that. So I was like, oh, okay, she's glistening. And I want you to remember that because that's going to make more sense in the last episode of the season. Okay. Remember that. Glistening and she's not feeling well. And her hands are covered in ink stains from all the writing that she's doing. Colin comes by to check on her to make sure she's okay and gives her an engagement ring. And he sees the ink stain. She's like, oh, I'm just writing family and friends to tell them of our good news. So, of course, she's still lying and ain't telling them nothing, right? So, let's see. I said he gifted her. She struggles to get her column right. And Eloise visits her because Eloise has sat down with Colin and she sees how dopey, happy, in love Colin is. And so she's like, okay, he's this happy. And I don't want to take away his happiness. And I know that Penelope is planning to tell him that she's Lady Whistledown, but that might do more harm than good. And I love my brother and I want him to be happy. Colin also asked her, did you know about Lady Whistledown? And I put this in my notes, how men don't be picking up on stuff. He asked Eloise, did you know she was Lady Whistledown? Eloise's response was, you talked to Penelope? Now, if Cressida just admitted to being Lady Whistledown, obviously Colin is asking you, did you know that Cressida was Lady Whistledown? So if he's asking you that, why would her response be about Penelope? Now, if I'm Colin, I'd be like, why are you asking about her? Like, I'm talking about Cressida and women. Why'd you mention Penelope? I would kind of stop the conversation and redirect. He didn't even pick up on that. The viewing audience, I'm assuming, picked up on it. And she was like, no, I didn't. I didn't know about Cressida. She was very careful with the way she worded things, so she didn't lie to him at all. But she was like, I thought that you hated Cressida, or I thought you hated, whatever. He was like, no, he was like, all I care about now is Penelope and her happiness. That's literally all I want, and that's all I care about. And all the rest of the stuff is not that important. Whoever wants to deal with Lady Whistledown can deal with her. I'm out. I don't care. So Eloise goes to Penelope to plead with her to not write another column, like just let it die, leave it alone. And they had this very interesting conversation where Penelope says, Lady Whistledown is me. It's my name. I can't let somebody else take that from me. It's mine. And Eloise tells her, your name is about to be Bridgerton, and you can't be both. I was like, ooh, that was a good line. And I also feel like that conversation is one of the more mature sides I've seen of Eloise this season. I really loved that conversation. She was just being, upfront with it. I love my brother. I know this is important to you, but I need you to see this from this particular angle. I just thought it was because I feel like even though a lot of people loved Eloise the first season or two, she's always come off kind of self righteous, a little annoying, talking a little bit too much, not really willing to see other sides. But this is the first conversation where I thought she sounded so incredibly mature. It sounded like a good friend, right? So it's like, oh, okay, she's making sense. So Penelope is contemplating this the whole episode. Should I give this up? Should I just let Cressida take the fall? Because I do love this man. I don't want to hurt him. If I admit to being Lady Whistledown now, yes, I'll be able to keep my name and I'll out Cressida and whatever. But I may end up losing this man that I love and really losing all prospects of marriage, to be honest. And do I want to risk doing that? There's a scene where she goes to the modiste to get her wedding dress made. So of course she has to get measured, pick out fabric, all that stuff. And she's telling the modiste, like, that was my last column. The column where I wrote I was engaged, that's the last one. I have a wonderful love match. I don't want to do anything to risk that. So I'm gonna let Cressida take the not the blame, but take the ownership of being Lady Whistledown. And the Modise, I really like the Modise character. I feel like we don't see her nearly enough, but I really like her. I love the friendship that she and Penelope have because we talked about this a few episodes ago, how there aren't a lot of times outside of Lady Danbury and the Queen and Lady Danbury and Violet. We don't see a lot of those friendships with the younger people, girls and guys. We don't really get to see that too often. So I love the fact that Penelope has this friend who understands her, who actually listens to her. Because even though she and Eloise were besties, Eloise did not pay attention to that girl. She did not listen to that chick. We saw that a few times. Like, girl, that's supposed to be your friend. What you doing? So I love that she and the Modise, especially the Modise being in on the other side of the tracks technically as a working woman, but Penelope being part of the ton. I love the fact that they have this actual relationship. That is so special to me. But Penelope, well, the Modiste tells her, the thing I love the most about dressmaking? I love to see the look in somebody's eyes when they put on something that I've created. And I couldn't imagine ever giving that up. And that's all she says. She doesn't say, you're going to regret this and you shouldn't do this. She says none of that. She just says, this is my point of view. But your dress is gonna look beautiful. It's gonna look great, and just kind of leaves it at that. And of course, that gives her it gives Penelope yet another thing to think about. What am I going? I know what I'm going to lose if I admit that I'm Lady Whistledown, but she's just thinking about losing Colin and not losing that part of herself or losing all of this hard work that she's put into it. So it's obviously a hard decision for her. But at some point, she puts away her quill and she takes old issues of Lady Whistledown and tosses them into the fire. And it's her. And what I thought was really, really interesting is we have this scene of her tossing the issues into the fire and putting away her quill pen, essentially saying, I'm giving up writing. And the very next scene is Colin at his desk furiously writing. And I loved that those scenes were back to back with that. And I know that was obviously intentional, showing Penelope giving up something while Colin is gaining something. He is gaining this new life and this new passion while Penelope is giving her passion up. So I love the way they shot that. It sucks, but that does happen even in 2024 where so many women give up their life, they give up their passion, their jobs, their whatever to support their spouse, to support their children, because obviously my children need me. I need to be with them, blah, blah, blah. I get all of that because I was the same. I didn't necessarily give things up. I didn't do that. But even if you're not physically giving up a job, sometimes you're giving up your social life, right? You're giving up things that maybe were very passionate to you before because you're like, well, I can't possibly do this and be a good mother. I can't possibly do this and be the best wife ever. And life is about balance, and there's no way to thoroughly balance everything out completely and evenly. Sometimes, some things are gonna have to fall back, and they're gonna, fall by the wayside, which is life. But yeah, that kind of rung true for me. So seeing that scene back to back, I was like, in that day and age, I'm sure it happened a lot more, but it is still happening in this day and age where women feel like they have to, even if a man isn't asking them to give anything up, women still feel like they have to kind of let some parts of themselves go in order to be the best version of themselves for their spouse. So I just thought that was an interesting scene. I'll say that. So at the Mondridge ball, when Cressida comes in wearing the red, and then they pass out the little paragraph sheet, well, that her mother wrote, saying that Lady Whistledown is coming back, and I've been keeping my eye on you. Eloise and Penelope lock eyes, and they both have a panicked look, and they run and find a room to kind of hide out in. Colin sees them and he follows them. I don't think he catches up and hears their conversation necessarily, but he follows them and he's like, what's going on? And so in their conversation, that was the start of them becoming friends again. Because Eloise is like, I cannot believe I invited that girl into my life, back to my family. She can hurt us all over again. I can't believe she's going through with this. What are we going to do? And Penelope tells her, like, look, I need to publish again. She's like, I'm asking you, let me publish one more thing. I need to discredit Cressida because she doesn't deserve it. She's like, yes, a lot of stuff I wrote was gossip. You were right about that. But I realize now that I started writing because I felt powerless in my own home. And what I should have been doing all this time was writing for those people who also feel powerless, becoming the voice for those who are voiceless in the ton or even beyond. I should have been wielding my quill pen a lot more responsibly. So let me do some good with it now. I know I did some bad, but I did a little bit of good too. Let me pick up my pen one more time, and do some good. And Eloise's like, yes, do that. You got to make sure you come out before she does tomorrow. So Penelope leaves the party, and she's obviously an expert at this now, right? An expert at dipping out, and people don't notice that she's gone. She dips out, she takes a carriage to her publisher, and she's furiously writing her, not furiously, but like quickly writing her column on the way to the publisher and drops it off. So before I get to what happened next, let me make sure I miss anything with Colin. I feel like I got most of the stuff with Colin. Um, I think I got most of the stuff. Yeah, the conversation he had with Eloise, and oh, this is the part that I didn't really care for with Colin. There, he's dancing with Penelope at the Mondridge ball, and he tells her, like, oh, by the way, I started editing my manuscript, just like you wanted me to, or just like you encouraged me to. I'm editing. She's like, oh my gosh, are you serious? That's great. That's amazing. She offers to help him edit something. And he's like, I think I should do it. And, then when I'm finished, I can read it to you. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. And that one scene made me mad because I felt like he was discrediting her and devaluing her. And I feel like the only time he listens to what Penelope has to say is when she is boosting him up. That was what I got. And I'm sure I'm reading way more into the scene than was actually there. But I think because of their history and from what I've already seen this season, I was like, huh. I like Colin, but I'm giving Colin the side eye. Like, I don't know about all this because he seems very dismissive of her wanting to look at it. Obviously, he doesn't know that she's Lady Whistledown, doesn't know that she's been writing for years, but he knows that she's an avid reader. And sometimes avid readers make really good editors, not for the grammatical stuff, but they can help you figure out, okay, this story is kind of falling flat. Maybe you should put this up here because this was more interesting than that. They can at least help you make something more engaging. The fact that he dismissed her in that way, didn't appreciate, not even a little bit. After she drops her stuff off with the publisher, she turns around and who's right there? He's Colin. And he's heard that, okay, this is from Lady Whistledown. So he looks at him and he's like, you've been Lady Whistledown all along? And that's how the episode ends. So that's basically it for season 6. I mean, season 6. Season 3, episode 6. But these are some things I noticed, okay? Ready? I love the fact I said there was a plus size black woman that had some lines, so that just made me happy as a plus size black woman. I'm like, go ahead, sis, you better get your check. I also that Benedict is one of my favorite characters, though I don't like what they're doing with him this season at all. But I like him a lot, and I think he's the best big brother in the show. Colin doesn't seem to hang out too much with the younger siblings. Like he and Eloise are talking now, but mainly about Penelope. It doesn't seem like they've ever had a strong relationship, though I will say that Colin travels a lot, so that could be, why that is. But Anthony, he's gone. He's doing his own thing. But Benedict is the one who actually like plays with Gregory and Hyacinth. He teases them. I feel like he spends the most time with them. So I really like Benedict. I think he's definitely the best big brother on the show. Let's see. But Francesca and John are interesting, and I was curious. We've heard a couple conversations that they've had. The longest conversation they had, probably to just the two of them, was about her and playing the piano and how much she loves it, and how much she can't wait for the peace and quiet of his house. But I haven't heard a clear idea of what he sees in her. I feel like for him, she sees peace, She sees somebody who appreciates and relishes quiet, who will allow her to just kind of chill and have her moments and not constantly try to talk to her, try to get her to go out and do this and do this. I think she sees that, but I don't know if I guess I'm sounding like Violet now. Not that I doubt that he loves her, that she loves him. It's just not quite clear what they like about each other. So I was like, I don't really, that hasn't been discussed exactly. Because I feel like with all of the other couples, with Kate and Anthony, with Colin and Penelope, and with Simon and Daphne, we heard them tell each other, I like this about you. I like that about you. I like that you look this way. I love that your eyes sparkle. I love how nice you are to my sibling. Like whatever. We've heard them exchange not pleasantries. We've heard them talk about what they actually like about the other person. We've never heard John and Francesca have that conversation. So because of that, it's just like, okay, you guys are interesting, but I don't quite understand what's happening here. So I don't know if you guys picked up on that. Let's see. Why would Eloise ask about Penn? Okay, I already said that. I said that Eloise has matured a lot. I also said how heavy are the queen's wigs. Her wigs be like super tall and they are super defined. And I know that has to be a headache every freaking day when that actress puts that wig on, puts any of those wigs on, really. And I don't think she's repeated a wig yet. Like, kudos to the wig department. You guys are freaking awesome. I said that Francesca found her voice this episode, and it seems like she does most of the talking for her and John. I don't know if that's because she's finding her voice and so she wants to utilize it, or if John just kind of lets her take lead because he don't want to say anything. Like, I don't know if he's just the quiet one. It seems like they're both the quiet one, but I feel like she found her voice a little bit more, which is like, okay, I guess. Um, oh, okay. So this is a question that I had to look up. There's a scene where Lady Featherington, like I said, she's picking out decorations for the wedding and I think for the wedding breakfast. And she's looking at stuff and she's like, oh, yeah, this would be wonderful. This would be beautiful when you have this color. And Prudence is like, you didn't get this excited when, we got married. And she's like, well, that's because you guys weren't marrying someone with unlimited funds. And she's like, oh, okay. So it made me wonder, what the heck does a Viscount do that has unlimited funds? Because Anthony is Viscount Bridgerton, right? No one else in the show has that title of Viscount. And if he controls the money, everybody else, all the siblings, I feel like, and I guess the mother, they all get a stipend or get like an allowance. And then if they need extra money, they go to the brother to ask for extra money. So I was like, what the heck does the Viscount do? So I had to look it up. And the Viscount collects revenues and taxes from the town, I guess. So I think that means that Viscount Anthony's, the Viscount Bridgerton, is the only Viscount in the ton, and that is his sole job to collect revenues and taxes from the people. For the Queen, I guess. I'm not quite sure about that, but I was like, at least I was like, okay, I have some idea what the heck he does because I had no idea. So I guess that means he not from the ton. I guess he connects revenues and taxes from like the working class people. I don't know. Either way, that's how they have money because I was very confused by that. I said it's most honest that we've seen Portia, aka Lady Featherington. So okay, I'm going to say this comment, but I in the last episode that I review, I'm going to have a longer discussion about the difference between the show and the book. Um, So the scene where Colin and Benedict are talking and they're getting drunk, and Colin tells them, "Oh, I'm writing," and Benedict's like, "Oh, at least you have the passion. I'm just lost." In the book, Colin is the character that is lost. Benedict is still heavily an artist by the time Colin's book comes around. Benedict loves art. He's still like, he's making a name for himself. He's enjoying it. He's living his life. And Colin has a conversation, I think probably with Penelope, like, my brother's a Viscount, my sister's a Duchess, my other brother's an artist. And what am I doing? I'm the third born, but I have no direction. I'm just kind of floating around. And Penelope gives him the idea to actually turn his travel journals into a book. So I didn't like the fact that they changed that up. That kind of made me mad a little bit. There's other parts that made me mad that I'll talk about in the last video. What else? I said outside the wedding, we've never seen them in church. And so but there's a scene where Cressida again is asking Eloise for help with writing the column. And she's supposed to be sneaking to see Eloise when everybody gets out of church. But this heifer's wearing a bright pink bubblegum dress. How the freak you gonna sneak into an event wearing a bright pink dress? And again, Cressida, her signature is huge shoulders. So you have these huge shoulders and it's bright bubblegum pink. What are you doing? I just thought that was not even funny. Just like, girl, come on now. Let me see. No space for girls. Oh, okay. I put this just as an aside. When we see people at the balls, we see the people dancing. We see girls gathered around drinking lemonade, just chit chatting, sometimes chit chatting with their family members or just like a group of girls just hanging out. And I was like, when did that shift to now when you go to a party or a club or an event or whatever, girls dancing together? Because if you're not even if you're my age, it has nothing to do with age. You can go to any party now, party, club, whatever, and if a good song comes on, the people on the dance floor are not just couples dancing with each other. You'll see a group of girls dancing together. They may be in a circle or whatever, but you'll see them dancing and having fun together. Not grinding on each other, but just dancing like with abandon. But it's not happening in Bridgerton. So I'm very curious to know when that changed in society. Or is that still not a thing when it comes to people who are of the ton or nobility? Do they still just, just stand around if they don't have somebody to dance with? Because, like, Violet is not married anymore, and I've never seen any of her sons take her on the dance floor to dance. But, like, what is she supposed to do? If she likes to dance, why can't she dance? And I also wondered if the queen, because dance in Queen Charlotte, but only with her husband. Now that her husband is mentally unstable to the point where he like does not leave his castle anymore. I wonder if she misses dancing. But also as a queen, she probably wouldn't be able to anyway. Well, I guess if he was there, she would. But I was kind of curious about that. I was wondering if she missed it. She just has to sit there and just kind of look over everybody. And she loves gossip, but she's probably like, I'm bored. I want to dance. I like this song. So I just thought that was kind of sad. Says a nice reminder that Danbury's from Africa when her accent changed. I love that. And that Colin doesn't value input from Penelope. So those were my notes. Those my observances from this episode. But let me know if there's something that I missed that you guys caught. Comment below, like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be back probably next week, I guess, maybe sometime in the future to go over episode 7 from season 3 of Bridgerton. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. Peace.